The Galactic Academy's lecture hall fell silent as Professor Velthar, a distinguished Quillarian scholar with iridescent scales, introduced the newest additions to the xenoanthropology program. Two humans stood at the front. Caitlin, a biologist with sharp green eyes and auburn hair tied back in a practical bun, and Garen, a historian whose casual demeanor belied the intensity in his dark gaze. These humans have volunteered to give us insight into their species' educational practices, Professor Velthar announced, his vocal sac vibrating with curiosity. Please begin with your planet's history curriculum. Caitlin smiled and activated the holographic display. We'll start with something simple, middle school history, ages 11 to 14. The first image materialized, a plague doctor's mask from medieval Earth. The Black Death, 1347 to 1353, Garen began, killed roughly 1/3 of Europe's population, transmitted by fleas on rats. We teach 12-year-olds how it spread, how societies collapsed, and how humanity rebuilt afterward. A Cathari student, her translucent body pulsing with confusion, raised a tentacle. Forgive me, but why would you teach children about such horror? Surely this would traumatize young minds. Caitlin exchanged a glance with Garen. It's just history, she said simply. We teach them what happened and what we learned, quarantine protocols, the importance of sanitation, how to recognize pandemic patterns. The hologram shifted to show trenches filled with mud and soldiers. World War I, Garen continued. Chemical warfare, trench foot, shell shock, what we now call PTSD. 15-year-olds write essays analyzing the strategic failures and humanitarian costs. Professor Velthar's scales rippled with distress. These are military tactics, weapon systems. You teach children this? It's required curriculum, Caitlin confirmed. By 16, they're analyzing nuclear proliferation, Cold War brinkmanship, and mutually assured destruction. A Vexian student, barely more than a floating crystal matrix, chimed in with crystalline tones. On Vexia, our youth learn mathematics, philosophy, and artistic expression. We shield them from violence until they reach intellectual maturity at 40 cycles. Interesting, Garen said, pulling up another image, a mushroom cloud over Hiroshima. We were splitting atoms and dropping atomic bombs by age 20. The scientists who built them were in their 20s and 30s. The lecture hall erupted in shocked chirps, whistles, and chromatic flashes. Impossible, declared a Zenth student, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Species don't develop nuclear technology until reaching social stability. The psychological cost would... We developed nuclear weapons during our biggest war, Caitlin interrupted. Then used them. Twice. We teach 15-year-olds the physics, the ethics debates, and the aftermath. It's in standard textbooks. Professor Velthar steadied himself against his podium. Perhaps we should move to something less martial. What about your natural sciences? Caitlin brightened. Great idea. Let's discuss basic Earth biology. She pulled up an image of a mosquito. This is one of Earth's deadliest creatures. Mosquitoes kill over 700,000 humans annually through disease transmission. Malaria, dengue, yellow fever, Zika. And we teach children about all of them, Garen added. By age 10, they can identify symptoms, understand transmission vectors, and know basic prevention. 10 years old? The Quillarian professor's scales had lost their iridescence entirely, fading to a dull gray. But that's... Or sharks, Caitlin continued, warming to the subject. Venomous snakes, over 600 species. Spiders, scorpions, jellyfish. We teach kids which ones can kill you and how to avoid them. Basic survival skills. The Cathari student's bioluminescence flickered weakly. Your children learn to identify hundreds of lethal organisms as routine education? Most of us grow up around them, Garen shrugged. Australia's particularly fun. Nearly everything there can kill you. Kids learn to check their shoes for spiders, how to handle snake encounters, which octopi to avoid. "This is madness," breathed a Pelian student, her fur standing on end. "Your planet is a death world." "It's just Earth," Caitlin said, genuinely confused by their reactions. "Wait until we get to geology. Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions." "Please, no more," Professor Velthar interrupted, his voice weak. "I need to understand. How does your species survive childhood?" Garen and Caitlin looked at each other, then back at the horrified alien faces. "By learning," Caitlin said slowly, as if explaining something obvious. "That's why we teach this stuff. Knowledge is survival." "Let me get this straight," the Zenth student said carefully. "Your history class is actually threat assessment training? Your biology lessons are identifying deadly organisms? Your geography is predicting natural disasters?" "Well, when you put it like that," Garen started, "and you teach this to children?" "Yes?" Caitlin's confusion deepened. "What do you teach your kids?" The lecture hall remained silent until the Vexian student spoke, her tones subdued. "Safe things. Beautiful things. We introduce harsh realities gradually over decades, with psychological support." Garen pulled up one final image, a human child's textbook titled World History, Grade 7. "This is for 12-year-olds, he said quietly. "It covers the fall of Rome, the Mongol conquests, the Atlantic slave trade, both world wars, the Holocaust, nuclear proliferation, climate change, and pandemic preparedness. All in 1 year." Professor Velthar stared at the textbook's table of contents, his scales now completely colorless. "You're not teaching them history. You're teaching them how to survive apocalypses." Caitlin smiled, but there was something ancient in her eyes, something that made the assembled aliens unconsciously shift backward. "Professor, we've survived apocalypses, plagues, wars, ice ages, supervolcano eruptions. We're still here, and we make damn sure the next generation knows how we did it." "Every human child," Garen added softly, "graduates knowing how civilizations fall and how they rebuild. It's not trauma, it's insurance." The Cathari student's voice was barely a whisper. "Your entire species is trained from childhood for extinction-level events?" "Prepared," Caitlin corrected. "Not just trained, prepared. There's a difference." As the lecture hall cleared in stunned silence, Professor Velthar approached the two humans with newfound respect and no small amount of fear. "I finally understand," he said quietly, "why humanity reached the stars so quickly. You're not exploring, you're escaping, always preparing for the next disaster." Garen grinned, but it wasn't entirely friendly. "No, Professor. We're exploring because we survived every disaster Earth threw at us, and we figured, how bad can space be?" Caitlin nodded toward the departing students. "Besides, if we can teach 12-year-olds about nuclear winter and pandemic protocols, surviving in vacuum doesn't seem so impossible." The professor watched them leave, finally understanding the galaxy's uncomfortable truth. Humanity hadn't joined the galactic community despite being from a death world. They'd joined because of it, and that, he realized with chilling clarity, made them the most dangerous species in known space, not because they were warriors, but because they treated apocalypse survival as elementary education.